I have inspected the internals of the gearbox to see if there's any issues that need to be addressed before I start to reassemble it. Not seen any so far. There's no witness marks, etc. The gearbox cam plate looks fine as well. One of the requirements for assembling the gearbox, as listed in Mick Hemming's excellent treatise on Norton gearboxes, is to make sure that the lay shaft fits smoothly into the bearing. I have the Norton Commando main shaft actually in my lathe between centres, and I'm going to look at this end and see just how much variation I got. So about 1.5 thou that way, and back to 0, and going back up to about 1.5, maybe 2 thou. So now I'm going to look down the other end of the shaft and actually see what we can see down there. So again back at 0. It's about 1 thou. Yeah. So about 1/1000th variation. Is this 1,000th? Yes. So that's pretty good. I shall do that on the lay shaft if I lay shaft if I can. I've zeroed on the lay shaft at one end. I'm going to come up to the scroll point. So we're seeing about plus or minus 1 thou there. And if we go to the other end, so this does not have a score point, so it should be easier to see. Oh, it does have a score point. And that's moved it off. Okay, let's come up to that end. Okay, so we'll go from one side of the scroll to the other. Minus 1 thou. Oh, minus 2.5 thou. Minus 1 thou. Okay, so we're a bit offset. So we're seeing plus or minus 1.5 thou, plus or minus 1 thou. I am now in a position to start reassembling the gearbox. There are some checks to do first, and one of the first is to check the indexing on the cam plate. I have put the gearbox into 4th, and marked the position of the cam plate top gear, 4th gear, so that the plunger is in that notch. One of the things you need to do is to fit the inner cover So to achieve that, I have put the new studs in, and then you fit the inner cover, which I should do now. Having temporarily fitted the gearbox inner cover, I can look to see the amount of gap at the top with the gearbox still in fourth, and then by manipulating the arm, you can't get to the nut or the bolt that's actually on the quadrant plate, so you have to use other mechanism. I can push it down into third, into second, into neutral, and into first, and then I look to see the gap at this end, and it should be about the same at each end. Now I noticed on this box that the top has actually been, the slot has been tapered slightly, whereas at the bottom it hasn't, but there's still sufficient gap so that it won't, the outer cover, or the inner cover, sorry, won't actually hold the operating arm and stop it from sliding into gear. And certainly before, when the gearbox was assembled, when they put it into the bike, it selected all the gears and things. It just unfortunately started clunking on me for whatever reason. Haven't figured that one out. The cam plate is set into neutral, which is the preferred assembly, and the first thing you fit is the main shaft, and that slides in through the sleeve gear and is all the way home. I have put oil on everything. You've seen that I've actually checked the main shaft and the lay shaft for run out, and I have inspected every single gear to make sure that it's that they're all concentric. I can't find anything that suggests well, there's no witness marks on them anywhere, or dirt or anything really, which is quite frustrating in some ways. So I'm hoping that when I put the box back together that it will all just work. And now we're starting to assemble the gearbox, and we need to actually slide the third gear, no, second gear in. There we go, and then slot the selector gear into the track at the back there. And now I am going to put the guide pin in temporarily, just to hold that in place while I do other bits. The next parts to go into the gearbox is the lay shaft with two gears in this case, and the outer gear has a slight step on the outside which goes against the bearing, and then the inside of that is smooth, and that then slides in and should be a smooth, I can't get down for this one. Get the lay shaft in, and then that should be a smooth fit into the gearbox, and everything rotates nicely, doesn't make any noises. Actually, that seems a little tight. We'll come back. Of course, I realised why I can't turn the lay shaft is because the back wheel is still connected via the chain to the engine sprocket, and of course that is what's trying to drive the lay shaft. So through the gear at the top gear, first gear. Sorry. Right. Okay. Putting the lay shaft second gear in means you have to take out the pin because you obviously need to rotate this around. Now, it's always a juggle, but if you can get that in there and then slide the pin back in, hopefully you can actually hold the main shaft selector foot. There we go, we've got them in. So once we've actually got the various cogs in the gearbox, we'll need to rotate everything and make sure it is all still working correctly. Right. Okay, and we're still in neutral, well, as far as I can tell. The next part to go in is the second gear main shaft with its sleeve. And then we have let's put some oil on bits. Now the next part is the first gear on the main shaft, and I'm just going to go and look to see which way round it goes. I'm pretty sure it's that way round because that part goes into where the bearing is on the inner cover, but I will check that. I was correct, the wide shoulder goes on the outside. Okay. And then we have the last gear that actually has the quick kickstart part in it. I'll just get some oil on it. And that should slide in there. And that is now all together. I need to tighten up the selector fork pin, so I'll do that next. Okay. I have made sure that the selector barrel is actually in the selector arm, and we can rotate the gearbox and there's just no noise at all, which is what I had when I first assembled the box, which is quite weird. So let's put the inner cover on and see if that makes a difference. The gearbox turning nicely. Obviously you need to actually keep it in the right position, so we can now fit the gasket, and this is fitted dry. This is a gasket that I bought from Andover Norton. And then we have the selector ball in there. We are now about to fit the inner case, and to do that we actually need to put the kickstart shaft in and rotate it such that it holds the pawl. Right, so you rotate it such that it holds the pawl back, so it'll actually just fit straight on, and then that goes, oh, I slipped out. And that then goes in that way. Camera's in the way. reach over the camera. Slot is there, slot is there, fits over. Okay. Okay, so the kickstart shaft is in. Gearbox still turns over, although it's more difficult to see. So let's get the nuts on to actually hold it all together. I am torquing up the inner cover bolts, and I have torqued them already to 5 foot-pounds, because that's the lowest my torque wrench will go to, and then 8 foot-pounds, and now I'm going to the final 12 foot-pounds, and they're in a cross pattern that we will see. Turn it on. Saves the battery, but turns itself off, which is frustrating. There we go. Put 2, 3. Yeah. 4. Of course, 2 of the nuts are a different size, so we'll just swap those over. And then that was number 6, so number 7. 7. I have made myself a crib sheet so I get the sequence the same each time. Okay. I have made some progress in that I fitted the nut at the end of the crankshaft and torqued it up, and I used blue Loctite on it. I have then made sure that the clutch push rod is free and is sticking out both ends. I have then mounted the clutch operating arm with the ball bearing inside and tightened this up such that the slot is lined up with the mark that I made where the cable entry is, so that it will make the best operating system. I use a tool that I bought from Andover Norton, and by setting this back and then using a big old spanner, a long end, and a mallet, I hit that end until this is tight, and the arm is in line. So the next point is to actually install the operating lever with the rollers and such like. This is all new, so I'm not shouldn't say that, but I'm hoping that I'm not going to have an issue. One thing I will note at this point in time is that the kickstart mechanism works very well. It's all free, and that the gearbox rotates very nicely with no noise, no clicking, no nothing. So that's good news. I fitted the inner and outer roller on the little bolt that goes through, and that rotates nicely. And then, and obviously put the arm on, and the arm works correctly. So if I push the other end of the clutch push rod, the operating arm is actually right down, comes right down onto the roller, and actually as it goes up, the roller rotates, and the ball pushes the push rod that actually then tightens, opens, releases the clutch, I should say. I then fitted the main, the kickstart spring. It's actually on a peg inside, actually under there, and then goes over the peg at this end. I watched Mick Hemmings' video, and he makes it look very easy. I actually have a tool similar to his. I use this to put the main stand and side stand springs on the Triumph. Not on this. The main stand spring on this was impossible to get in. I had almost a whole video just actually trying to put that main spring in. I was using wedges to open the spring out and all sorts. So we are now almost at the position where we can fit the gear change mechanism. Let's get some oil. There we go. You have to get them lined up correctly. So I think everything in there is now done. So I shall fit the gearbox gasket as I got from Andover Norton, again dry. Fits on the two dowels. And then we put the outer cover on. I've got the spring and the other spring underneath all. I haven't disturbed those, so it's a matter of just sliding it all. Let me put some oil on the various bushes. There we go. The outer case just sort of slid on, having wiggled the gear change just slightly to get the parts to line up, and then there are the outer screws. There's 3 shorter ones and the 2 longer ones at the front. So I'll do those up, and then I'll see if the gear change and the kickstart works, rather than try and hold the cover on. With the cover tightened up, the kickstart works nice in neutral. We're in first, so it's turning the back wheel. Second, turn the back wheel again. Third, and fourth. So we have all the gears. And we're back in neutral. So I'm happy with the gearbox so far. I now need to put the primary drive back together. I took the primary drive apart to ensure that the gearbox sprocket, that's in gear. Yep. To ensure that the gearbox sprocket nut was tight and properly clamped in place, and obviously make sure that there was nothing rubbing or clicking or causing any issues there. So I shall now put that back together and see where we are. While working on the gearbox, I noticed I have an issue with the swinging arm. At each end there is a plug, effectively, that seals in the oil, because it's actually oil inside here rather than grease, and this has slipped down. I was never very impressed by these, and I've noticed that with the primary off and in this position that I can actually get to these 2 ends. So I'm going to take this out, and I think I'll turn up a shoulder, or perhaps make some new parts, such that it actually fits inside of the swinging arm, rather than just sort of tightens up on the end, because you obviously need to keep the oil inside there and stop any water and things getting in. That being said, I think I'm going to end this video now, and do that work, and then put the primary together, because I can, with it open, I can actually get at the end of it, and then put the rest of the bike back together during the week, and hopefully by next weekend we'll have a fully working bike. I'll let you know.